Very interesting. If you remember that, you're as old as I am. Good morning, Larry Satchwell here in the garden in my red okra, which is about 8 feet tall. I've had to get my step stool to harvest these last ones off of that, but I've been getting enough okra. I'm the only one in the household that eats it, and I've been having it a couple times a week and really enjoying it. Let's walk through the garden. We can go to the sunchokes here. As you can see, they have blown over about 3 times. I tried to tie them up, and every time it's been unsuccessful. But they're going to bloom here, even though they're laying down. They'll bloom here in the next week or so. In fact, on the other one over there, I've already had a couple of blooms. Haven't been doing much with the strawberries except trying to keep the weeds mainly out of them. My persimmon trees are still looking good. I haven't had to water them, although I keep the water here. Got some trees growing in here. This is a sweet gum. My wife refuses to pull the trees, but she'll pull the weeds. And of course, the ever-present crabgrass. And there really isn't any weed prevention stuff you can put on strawberries that'll kill the new growth. This tomato plant was a volunteer, and it looks like I might get 2 more tomatoes off of it. There's a few more over here, and then I'll pull that up. This is my lettuce crop, the year-round lettuce crop. Yeah, last night we had a wilted lettuce salad. The night before we had a side salad with it. So this has been it. Today the heat index is supposed to be in the 104 to 106 range. This afternoon, if you can grow lettuce in that heat, it's a good lettuce. This is from Pine Tree Seeds. I put some old lettuce seed out here, and I just put about, this is a volunteer tomato. This is where the tomatoes were. I just put about a 6-inch strip here to see if it would grow. Same thing with the radishes. The radishes are coming up. So I'll keep doing that every week. This is not going to grow. It's just too hot. Lettuce needs soil temperature of about 60 to 70 degrees for it to germinate. It's not going to germinate. I'll just keep doing that, experimenting with about 4 to 6 inches of lettuce seed every week until I get some sprouts, and then I'll plant a main crop. So right here, I've got yellow squash growing. And we have enough time here in Georgia for this to mature. These are 2-year-old seeds. This is a smooth yellow squash. And so I planted them really heavily. And as you can see, most of them took. This one is separated over to the side. So I'm going to dig it up, and I'm going to try to transplant this one. Now with this heat, it's very iffy if it will transplant. But we still have squash from last winter in the freezer that we need to use. I just planted this to have some fresh. So I'm going to set that aside. Looks like I just knocked off most of the dirt. Instead of trying to pull these up, I'm going to bring it down to 1 plant. And this plant here already has a true leaf. So that's the plant I'm going to save. Instead of pulling them up and risking all of the roots coming up with it, I'm just going to snip the rest of these off. I'm going to leave this to 1 squash plant. I've been recently following this gentleman on YouTube and on Instagram called Pawpaw Ridge. Pawpaw as in Pawpaw Patch, P-A-W, Ridge. He's got pawpaw trees growing on his property. But he puts everything up on trellises, and I want to try it with this. I wanted to do it this fall because if it's successful, I'll do it next spring too, and it looks to be very successful for him. So that's going to be my experiment for this fall, and I'm going to go transplant this other seed right now before it dries out, and then we'll keep on with the garden tour. We might as well start here. The only birds active right now are the hummingbirds, and they are working this canna lily every day, and all of my bird feeders. Raspberries here, don't expect them to do anything until next spring. I've got my barrel here, my little cart, because it fills up with water. There's what we got last night. And I've been filling up, this is a sunken bathtub under here. Been putting that water in my bathtub every morning. There's no filter in here. This is just basically a mud puddle that's bathtub deep. So I haven't gotten any lotus plants, any flowers lately. A little disappointing. Little moth trying to warm up. Won't take him long. That's probably a butterfly. Wish I knew my butterflies and moths. Oh, that reminds me. This Friday and Saturday, if you live in Georgia, and I think it's or North Carolina, or maybe South Carolina, one of those two, is taking part in the pollinator count. So all you have to do, it's real easy. I'll leave a link below for the pollinator website. You sit out and watch one flower for 15 minutes and record what landed on there. And they give you all of the things you need. So it's no big deal. So Tim, down in St. Simon's Island, great opportunity to sit out in that beautiful island and watch a flower for 15 minutes Friday and Saturday, and then just report your findings. This is a Coneflowers plant that has obviously had some wind damage to it, but the hummingbirds work it, not so much as the other flowers. I have something eating this, probably a leaf miner or something. So that one's looking terrible. And again, I don't spray. I might try to put something organic on there. These are petunias, Mexican petunias coming up from last year. They need more sun. And here is just another mud puddle. It's about 18 inches deep with water. And this is where I propagate my water hyacinth. There's some water lily in here as well, and some lettuce, water lettuce. I put that in the big pond, and because the fish tend to eat it, but they haven't been eating it lately. This is the other Jerusalem artichoke or sunchoke. It's up against the fence here. I've tied it up. It fell over as well, but this fence is sturdy enough. But as you can see, it's in direct shade as well. So this early spring next year, I'll probably try to dig up those artichokes that are down there, the sunchokes, and move them over here to where the sun is. Because you can see, let me zoom in here. It's great for growing morning glories. And those are morning glory seeds, weeds coming up there. I've got another droopy sunflower. This one really hasn't developed any seeds yet, so the goldfinch aren't eating it, but they will. I've got it tied over here to my okra, and this okra grows so fast in this hot weather. The okra loves heat. And the more heat, the better it grows. And I really like this red okra. Nothing's been eating on it per se, and it's really tasty. Right now, it's just propping up this sunflower. If I didn't have it propped up, it would be on the ground. My marigolds, I don't bother to deadhead these very often. When I go by them, I'll pull off a few deadheads. The deadheading just means that you're pulling off the spent flowers. And I would not be surprised if I have lots of marigolds here next year because I haven't deadheaded and the seeds will fall. No more tomatoes. In fact, I saw yesterday my wife finally bought tomatoes at the store for our salads. I don't think we'll get any more tomatoes the rest of the year. Tomatoes like hot weather in the spring, but once it gets into the 90s, they really stop producing. This petunia, Mexican petunia, is from JM up in Tennessee, and it has thrived. I've got it tied up too because it was falling over from the storm. Here is Cypress Vine. The hummingbirds don't mess with the nicotina very often. The moth hummingbirds love it, but they do like this Cypress Vine. And once again, it has covered my father-in-law's windmill. That's about all I've got going in the vegetable garden. When I cleared out the tomato plants the other day, I found these onions left over. I got them kind of curing out here. I'm still getting some blooms on my balloon flower. And I've already cut back several of them. As you can see, I've got those seeds hanging down in the barn along with some sunflowers. Hopefully they'll dry out and I can feed those to my chickens this winter. I have a flower coming up here right behind this verbena, and I'm not exactly sure what that is, but it's got some blooms that are going to come on, and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly what happens there. More of JM's bee balm up there. I have deadheaded it several times. And the Nicotina plants continue to bloom nicely. So there's this Stickweed. These were, the Stickweed and Coneflower were both bargains at the Walmart. And I did deadhead these. It is so hard to keep ahead of these weeds. A big sedge plant right there. I can't reach it. I'll get that later when I climb up in there. At this time of year, I'm looking for late blooming perennials. If you have any late blooming perennials you can suggest, I would love to hear it in the comments. Our Growers Outlet has reopened, and I got another dwarf Joe Pye weed right here that I planted the other day. So I think I have 5 of them now. That'll be a nice display next year. They're way past their prime right now. I should probably just cut that off. As you can see, no shortage of black-eyed Susans. More coneflowers here. I've got a little base to a batting tee right here. That's where I put my camera to watch the goldfinches on this coneflowers. They are loving this. And that's why I haven't cut them off, because I love the goldfinches. And they just eat on this all day long. The goldfinches and the hummingbirds are really only the birds we have real active right now. It's just too hot. I don't know what the guys are doing. Maybe they've gone to the beach. I don't know. But the perennial garden is looking pretty good. Over here, I've just yesterday was looking at this plant and looking at this plant. My wife came by and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to look for a flower on my snail vine." No flowers whatsoever. So disappointed. It has grown a lot since the last time you saw it on August 1st. Can you believe it's already August 15th? This is a great place for this hummingbird feeder. The raccoons haven't discovered it, and it's just so nice to sit out here. When you're sitting out here on this bench watching the fish, the hummingbirds will come right in on this like you weren't even there. And I've had a few of them come up just 6 inches in front of my face to say, "Oh, hello, thanks for the food." Another disappointment is the Canterbury bells. They've had a few blooms. They're all so high I can't see them. And the black-eyed Susans, these really come out in the fall, and they have covered up this side of the gazebo. One more plant I picked up the other day, and I was hesitant to do this because I'm not sure what the vines are going to look like next fall. This is a Madame Galian trumpet vine. It already had a vine that was about 4 feet long on it, and I've pinned it up here. So we'll see what that looks like. It should do well here once it gets up on top. It needs sunlight. It needs 6 hours of sunlight a day. I'm hoping that in the fall, after the leaves drop off of this crepe myrtle plant up here and everything else dies back, that it'll get some sun, especially in the early spring. And I think once it gets up to this window in here, it's going to have all the sunlight it needs. I'll leave you this morning like I often do at the fish pond. One of my favorite places to have a second cup of coffee, especially on these hot days. It gets so hot out here, you can't even sit out here without sweating. I've been using my GoPro, and I've got some beautiful footage of the fish pond here underwater. I'll be sharing that in the next few weeks. Thanks for watching. I hope your garden is doing whatever it needs to be doing right now. And stay cool. Pray for the people in Hawaii. I just turned around to go up to the house and saw this critter in here. That's what you get when you don't spray pesticides